Greetings to my fellow cephalopod enthusiasts. For the past few months, I've been playing a lot of Splatoon 2 as usual, but I've found myself wishing for some serious quality of life changes in Splatoon 3. Some of these aren't even difficult changes and would go a long way in making our experience way more convenient. If I don't mention something that you think Nintendo should change, let me know in the comments, or you can pop into my Twitch streams where I've been chatting with my community lately about changes they'd like to see. And make sure you stick through to the end of the video because I'm saving my biggest hope for last. Of the 21 wishlist items I have, the first 4 concern private lobbies. If you've ever played in a tournament or even joined friends for some private games, you know how frustrating the experience can be. Number 1. The host should be able to kick people from the lobby. It doesn't make sense that if someone joins when they shouldn't have, I can't remove them. I either have to wait for them to leave the lobby on their own, or I have to close the lobby and start a new one and hope this person doesn't rejoin. As a streamer, this is particularly annoying, and I have to just hope that when I'm telling my chat which people are allowed to join the lobby, anybody else watching whose name wasn't called doesn't join. The only other option I have of getting around this at the moment is messaging individual chatters the password for the lobby, and that's far too much work. This wouldn't be a huge thing for Nintendo to implement, and if it isn't in Splatoon 3's private lobbies, I'm going to be sorely disappointed. Number 2. People should be able to join private or league mode lobbies without being on your friends list. I have a bit more hope for this since Nintendo made a dodo code system for Animal Crossing, which made it so much easier to visit people via a password without going into friends lists. This would be nice in general, but would be vital for tournaments. In Splatoon 2, we have to friend at least one person in the private lobby even when there's a password, and it takes a long time to add and remove friends. Like, seriously. This is exactly how long it takes just to remove someone. Smash Ultimate also has a password system for arenas, so I don't see why this couldn't be implemented for Splatoon. Number 3. Let us go back to the join screen of the private lobby from the weapon pick screen. Right now, once the host moves on to weapon picks, you can't go back to switch in or out people. And if you wanted to make a change to who's in the lobby, you have to, you guessed it, close the lobby entirely and make a new one. These annoyances eat up a surprising amount of time, and for those of us who are streamers or competitive players, we've had a lot of experience dealing with these sorts of things. Having the ability to go back a screen wouldn't even be a drastic change, but it would improve the quality of life in Splatoon tremendously. Number 4. My last private battle focused request would be to give the host the option to invite specific people from their friends list. Several other systems have game invites, and while Nintendo does not have this set up to my understanding, which means it's almost certain not to happen, it would make my life easier when inviting specific people into a lobby rather than getting into a Discord server and sharing a password with them. Of these first 4, this is probably the item I think is the least important, but I still think it'd make my life a bit easier. Moving on to what I think is a pretty common opinion, number 5. Let us skip the news. I still love the news as a concept because it shows us a setting where the Squid Sisters or Off the Hook are a huge part of the turf scene as well as the city. But when you've played the game for any long amount of time, sitting through a minute of news after you already waited for the game to load just gets in the way of quickly getting into the game and having a good time. I don't want the news removed entirely, but it'd be great if there was a button we could press to simply skip it. Or maybe we could have a setting in the options menu to automatically skip the news section and load us right into Splatsville in Splatoon 3. Or, as a third option, we could load straight into Splatsville, and nearby would be a TV screen in a shop where we could tune into the news. That way, we still get to see the idols or news announcers and have some cute quips from them when we want to engage with that. And anyone who doesn't want to sit through it doesn't have to. It seems like an elegant solution to me. Number 6. I'd like more accurate rank power matching for lobbies, and I'd even be willing to wait a few minutes in a lobby if it meant I was going to be fighting people in X rank who are around my skill level. I've had the unfortunate experience of being in a lobby several times with people who are top 500. I'll let you all in on a secret. I'm only top 500 in my dreams. And I'm sure you can guess that the match went in their favor. It's not fun for those of us in low to mid X, but it's not fun for people who are high X either, because it feels so one-sided to a ridiculous amount. I've been encouraging myself to play against people who are better than I am, because it's been good practice to unlearn some bad habits I've picked up, but at least then I still feel like I'm learning. But having wildly different skill levels in solo rarely results in a good time. Number 7. This one is also related to ranks, rather that we should have a lobby for people to queue up for the ranked game modes without having a rank attached, like a quick play or a free play mode where people can choose what mode to play on. This would be great for practicing different weapons in objective-based settings without sacrificing your rank for it, or feeling like you're letting down your team. Last night, a viewer asked me to play E-Leader for one game, and my team in tower control probably hated me for it. Though I did at least get one shot that was impressive for me. But this would be great beyond practicing. Some people just don't like having a rank associated with their playing. It'd be cool to have a mode that's between casual turf war and ranked games, because Splat Zones, Tower Control, Rainmaker, and yes, even Clan Blitz are a lot of fun. But some people get anxious and have a really frustrating time seeing a number go down. Instead of your options being to grin and bear it, or stop playing, Nintendo could give us another way to play modes we like without the stress associated with it. I personally really like the challenge of ranked mode, but not everyone needs or wants that external motivator of a ranked number. Number 8. A league version of Turf War. I'm honestly surprised this hasn't been added already. While a lot of us find Turf War a little boring by this point, it'd be more fun having friends queue up in a Turf War lobby and knowing they'll be on your team, rather than being in the same lobby and finding half of you on one team and half of you on the other with strangers. Number 9. This would work well with my point about increasing the queue time for more accurate player matches and ranks. Minigames in the lobby. Splatoon 1 had Squid Jump on the gamepad, which you could play while waiting for the match to begin. It was optional, so if, say, you're a streamer and you want to use that time to catch up on chat, you can do that. And if you're playing alone, you can play a chill game while waiting. Squid Jump was also easy to learn, so if we could have it or a similar arcade-style game to play, any lobby times you have to wait through wouldn't really exacerbate boredom. Number 10. Ability chunks should be reworked in Splatoon 3. It's mainly the RNG that makes building gear feel like a chore. I like the drink system to guarantee the ability we're grinding for, rather than giving the ability a 30% chance of being rolled. Another option would be to have another store in the game where we can just straight up buy ability chunks and drink tickets, rather than rely on the Octo Canyon or Salmon Run for tickets. Number 11. The option to set up gear loadouts that are associated with a specific weapon. I don't love the panic of having a set amount of time to talk with my team about a weapon swap, and try to remember what gear I use, and then find it in time before I get pushed into the match with the timer running out. We also know this sort of already exists. You can save gear loadouts to Amiibo, but having mechanics be used only through Amiibo is a really awful way for Nintendo to expect us to use Amiibo. I even have most of the Splatoon Amiibos, but for me, they're just fun extra clothes in game, which do have a mechanical purpose, I know, but it's not like set abilities can only be obtained through Amiibo. So it's about time we had this function for everyone without having to have an amiibo within arm's reach of your chair. Number 12. If Nintendo wants to do one thing to vastly improve its accessibility for Splatoon players, they need to implement actual settings for players who have different kinds of color blindness. In Splatoon 2's options, you can use color lock, but this doesn't actually allow you to pick what colors your team and the opposing team are. Splatoon's elegance of portraying map control via colors on the map are unfortunately not accessible for people who struggle with some of the ink color combinations, so just let us choose what works for us. This is also a quality of life change that I surprisingly haven't seen many people talk about, but I'd like more game developers to keep in mind that there are different kinds of color vision impairments. Number 13. Here's another option I'd like rolled out beyond amiibos: photo taking, along with greater control over the camera. This would also be nice to have as something that you could invite a group of people to for group pictures, since teams often like to take pictures together to share, and it'd be a lot nicer if we could zoom in on the camera, choose to display in-game names or not, adjust what's in focus, so on and so forth. There's a surprising amount of control in the options for editing pictures in New Pokemon Snap, so could we have that in Splatoon 3, pretty please? Number 14. Display your kills, assists, and deaths on the end screen. Splatoon 1 actually did display how many times you died, and it was helpful for reiterating to you what your strengths and weaknesses are. Obviously, you want to avoid dying, but I see a lot of people rush into 1v4s, and I'd love for them to get feedback at the match's end to show them exactly how many times they died. That's more helpful than how many times someone used a special. Number 15. Can we get a training room that's actually helpful and something that you can enter without going through weapon testing? I'm thinking of something like the firing range in Apex, where you have a lot of space and dummies to attack, but also all of the weapons are made available. But there are actually way more things that could be done with a fully outfitted training room. How about letting us try out specials to get a sense of them before queuing into a match, or picking up a weapon in the training room and having to ink turf to get enough points for your special? Nintendo could use the canned special items from Octo Canyon, so you would just need to pick it up from a spot in the firing range to immediately have that special charged for you. Next, it'd be great to have an area of the training room that lets you practice with the Rainmaker or any particular special weapons that could be used in whatever theoretical ranked modes there are in the next game. Just give us the tools and space to practice and get a general sense of different things in the game without us having to queue into a match. Number 16. A better way in-game to access information about our stats instead of relying on people to use the Nintendo Switch Online app. I'm not saying to completely get rid of the app, but if I'm already in the game, it'd be nice to talk to Judd and have him give me facts about the weapons I play with, what my win rate is on the maps in rotation, my win rate for different weapons, so on and so forth. Number 17. On that note, can we have tips displayed in-game? This could, again, be done through Judd, or it could display during loading screens. Something like, when you form a power clam, everyone on the opposite team can see where you are, so be careful and work with your teammates. This would be very helpful for people getting into the game. And it'd also be a great reminder for some people who get into solo queue and act like this isn't a team-based game. Number 18. Another way to get newer and more casual players into ranked modes would be for Nintendo to provide actual tutorials on how to play the objective. I remember when Clam Blitz was first introduced and I had my brand new C rank in it, and I had very little understanding of how to play it. And I still get people starting up Splatoon, watching my streams, and asking me how they're supposed to play that mode. I can't really fault people for not understanding how to play it when Nintendo doesn't show you how. Every mode should have a tutorial you can load up from the lobby. Number 19. We're getting towards the end here, and I'm getting more particular. I want Nintendo to show us either actual numbers or keep their graphs consistent across weapon types when displaying the differences between weapons in Sheldon's shop. One of the problems is that it's hard to compare the ranges of different weapons that are not next to one another in Sheldon's shop, because we're given a graph without numbers for context. We also get different things being measured from one class to the next, so if you want to know how much a roller flick does, you have to test that in the shooting range for yourself. Number 20. This isn't a hard sell at all. We need better servers. Nintendo has only just started to replace their multiplayer server system, NEX or NEX, which they've used for about 10 years, and the NEX is nearly 20 years old. Basically, it's a matchmaking server that's a variant of Quasal Technologies Rendezvous. Ubisoft bought the company in 2010 and then licensed NEX to Nintendo. In February of this year, multiple news outlets reported on Nintendo slowly updating its multiplayer infrastructure to a new system called NPNL, which was tested on Monster Hunter Rise. I have some friends who play Rise on the Switch and say their online experience has been smooth, which has definitely not been the case for most people playing Splatoon 2. Many of us in the Splatoon community hope that we would see the switch to NPNL soon, but it's October now and I haven't heard or noticed anything to indicate Splatoon using NPNL, so hopefully the switch will be made for Splatoon 3. And lastly, what I consider to be one of the most important changes Splatoon could make. Number 21. Add more options for D-pad callouts. This way is a nice start, but it actually doesn't communicate a whole lot. Does it mean that you want to push forward? Does it mean that there's an enemy near you? Does it mean you want someone to jump to you? I'm not arguing for voice chat in Splatoon because 1, I don't even want to talk to strangers in games anymore over voice, and 2, Who are we fooling? Nintendo would never add voice chat anyway. But we have 4 buttons on a D-pad. If we want to keep it simple and not have a menu for pings, though I absolutely love the ping system in Apex, I can't think of an elegant way it would possibly work in Splatoon. Then we should use all 4 directions. And as much as I love boogieing my teammates, I can think of more helpful ways of communication. Here are just some examples of things I'd like. Watch out! Follow me! Help! Fall back! If we could have more than 4 somehow, I'd love mode-specific ones like give me clams, or take these clams, or ink the zone. But I think those 4 I listed would be helpful in all situations. But having an ouch option when you die is great for indicating where you died, or if you're like me and in solo, spamming it when you see the enemy sharking there and your teammate is going to walk straight into them and die. Splatoon is way more fun with teammates, partially because you're probably in a voice call with them and can coordinate far better than in solo queue. That will always be the case, but giving us more D-pad callouts would still be a great improvement. And I'm just telling you folks that I will cry if this isn't implemented for the next game. Which of my 21 wished-for quality of life updates are you hoping to see most? To be honest, I don't expect much in terms of these kinds of updates from Nintendo, but I could still hope, right? Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm super close to reaching 1,000 subs on here, so if you could help me reach that milestone, that would be amazing. I also want to thank my Fanhouse crew for supporting me in my content creation journey. If you'd like to join, links will be in the description. I'll see you in my Twitch streams and keep an eye out for my next several Splatoon videos. See ya!